so I'll do roll call. Steve Traeger is here. Manoush is here. Jake, Steve, I'm here. Jim Ures is here, and John Reed is here for a little bit. So we're on a tight quorum here. We've got 5. John leaves and nobody else shows up. We'll have to call the meeting early. So we'll try to get going. Minutes have been posted. I don't know if anybody's had a chance. It just went up recently. So if anyone has a feeling, we'll hold that to the next meeting to set. So approval of the agenda as presented. I'm only going to bring this up because I know our president and the council is here wants to personally make a change. But is there anybody in the community that has any issues with the agenda before I? Okay, you want to mention something?
Hi, I'm Liz Lupc, President of the Venice Council, and I decided to pull, and I notified the community and the Lupc earlier today, I decided to pull agenda item 7D, 20 Sunset Avenue. There's been a lot of misperceptions and back and forth, and there's been complaints from both the applicant and many from the community about perceptions of impropriety, and it's just gotten pretty crazy. So I conferred with city officials and city attorney and other board members and determined that the best course of action in the best interest of the community is to remove this item from Lupc and take it directly to the board. The board will determine the outcome of the 320 Sunset project. I've been talking to a couple of long time ago Lupc members, people who are not involved in any way in this procedure, to find someone who will write a staff report with fresh eyes and present it to the boards of the board as the proper background, with just someone who hasn't been involved in any way at this point. I've instructed the chair of Lupc to remove everything that's previously been up other than the city application and the whatever's on the VNC website, in terms of reports or editing or personal views or anything else other than the city information directly from the city from the VNC website. So we're going to start over with fresh eyes, and the board will begin considering it in May. I don't know at the May 20th board meeting. So if you have any concerns about that project, you can write directly to the board at venice.org. I don't know at that time if the board will be able to be ready to vote on it. It'll be the first time they hear it, but they may not. It depends on if they get a complete staff report by that time. It's short notice. It's possible they can hear it once and then hear it again. There's a policy the board has for very controversial projects that if they can't hear it over a 2-month period, they've done that in certain instances. So I just can't predict what the board will do at this point, but it will be on the board agenda May 20th, and it will be a direct from the applicant and the city to the board without Lupc's involvement. So as I said, I think this is in the best interest of the community in this particular instance, and that's what we're doing.
So can I ask a few questions? So this is a decision that you've made, and you've spoken with the city attorney and other board members to make sure my notes are correct.
Yes.
So the Lupc committee made a motion. The Lupc made a motion, and then AdCom said they didn't agree with the motion back and sent it back to us. We had a preliminary hearing of the case. We had a community outreach meeting, and we were to hear the case again tonight. But you, as the president, has made a decision which is you believe is correct to the bylaws.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
have checked with the
Been
city
verified.
attorney.
Yep.
You've checked with other board members.
Yep.
This is the right decision to make.
Yep.
Okay.
I have full authority to make that decision, and it's based on.
I just wanted to not like putting you on the spot. I just want to make sure our minutes
Reflect.
reflect what's exactly being said.
Any other questions?
May I ask a question?
Okay, well, yeah, that's the chair. I'm not the
Through the chair. If we have an election in May, when does the new board take office?
Well, if all goes according to plan, it would take office May the third Tuesday in June.
June.
If there's a challenge to the elections, let us hope not. It could be later, but that's unlikely.
So my question to this project is, if the project gets laid over during the time that the new board takes over, would the process have to start again with the new
That's a
board?
good question, probably. Probably, but I can't say that this board won't vote on it. I just
That's
can't.
something you should consider, because I believe it probably will.
I mean, this board, now that you bring it up, this board could have a special meeting to finish it. I mean, there's a lot of things I think it would be wise not to send it over to a new board in the middle of, at this point. So I would recommend to the full board, if they're not ready to vote on the 20th, to have a special meeting to finish it. But this is all, I just don't know what's going to happen. But this just happened today. It was based on just a lot of back and forth and a lot of,
But I just want to make sure, the notes are going to say that it's per the city attorney, per your discussion with the board.
after conferring,
That it is correct with the bylaws.
I conferred with the city attorney, I conferred with the Department of Labor and Empowerment, I conferred with our chair of our Rules and Elections Committee, I conferred with the vice president of the board.
Rules of election. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
we do that. Because I know a lot of people are going to get upset that it's been pulled.
I know,
So I want to make sure our notes are accurate to exactly
I just
what
said
you
it, yeah.
That it is correct to the bylaws, per rules of election, city attorney, other board members.
Yes. For the standing rules, for the bylaws, for the city attorney, for the Department of Labor and Empowerment, and
It's the decision of the president has made.
yes.
Jay?
Yeah.
Ask a question?
Yeah.
Linda, could you, because of the circumstances of the election and stuff, could you ask that the staff reports and everything be, hurried up?
Well, I'm just trying to find the person to accept the assignment. At this point, it's supposed to happen this afternoon.
Right.
So I talked to one person who's considering it, and I'll see, I just don't know what that one is.
I'm just curious how you write a staff report.
I don't
You haven't
know.
been at the
You know
community
what,
outreach
you know what, I don't know, I'm just finding someone who will take the case and see what happens. I can't predict that.
If you could expedite it because of the situation, that would be wonderful. Maybe you guys could vote on it and then at the board.
You know what, I don't know. It'll be on our agenda in May. I can't predict what will happen.
I have a question.
So, applicant has a question.
So if we've gone through 3 community outreach meetings and gone through 2 Lupc meetings, there was actually a vote, it was a majority vote to move the project to the VNC for a vote. Somehow or another, that vote got thrown out. Wait, I'm not done. Somehow or another, that vote got thrown out. From what I know, based on the email trail, there was some significant improprieties that took place by a member of Lupc who opted to operate on their own outside the boundaries of the Lupc committee, violating, from what I understand, and I'm not an attorney, the Brown Act. So I think there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on behalf of the VNC, not exactly the Lupc committee, but the VNC, where I think they overstepped their authority, and they sort of taken into consideration somebody's opinion that wasn't a consensus of a committee, and it was a project that was discussed outside the forum of a committee, which I think the Brown Act has jurisdiction on. So I'm kind of frustrated because the applicant is now having to go through this process again, and it's a little bit cumbersome and absurd to a certain extent. And frankly, I had a lot of conversations with city officials, Councilman Vaughn's office, city attorneys, and it's sort of the credibility that the VNC is putting themselves at risk of they're losing a lot of credibility in the eyes of the community, in the eyes of the zoning administrator's office. It's really crazy what's going on, but this is turning into sort of a kangaroo court. And I'm frustrated by it on behalf of the applicant because we've done beyond what the normal process has asked us to do. And I go back and ask the question that Jake asked, is you're now you're sort of usurping authority on this matter. And I'm questioning whether you have the authority to do that. I'd like to know who, I'd like to know who from the city attorney's office counseled you on that. I'd like the name of someone from the city attorney's office, not just the city attorney's office. And I'd like to know, what exactly gives you the authority to usurp it, and how are you going to formulate a staff report without another community outreach meeting, without somebody being able to have opportunity, unless they're going to use the staff report that's already been created, everything that's already been done to date, to formulate that staff report. So I just don't know how this process is going to continue with any semblance of continuity or confidence to a certain extent. And I'm just speaking on behalf of the applicant, and I'm just curious to know how that's going to happen.
No, time will tell.
Well, that's not a good answer. I mean,
I don't have a crystal ball. I made my presentation. That's all I really have to say.
But my frustration usurp the authority of this committee,
Yeah,
and you have no plan for how to formulate and complete this project.
I said what my plan was.
Well, but your plan is,
Over here?
your plan is passing Lucas.
All right, so I'm gonna, Steve, I'm gonna move it forward,
Yes.
and she said what she said. It's clear as day, everyone here has seen it. It's a fair question.
Sunset is off the agenda, she's talking.
I guess it was. Then I'm gonna end it and move forward if you have any questions.
When I read the bylaws, it said that there's a Lupc committee that's responsible to handle projects, and that the Lupc members are appointed by the board. And it doesn't say anything at all about the president being able to appoint somebody else outside the Lupc committee to have any jurisdiction over any project. And because this board is run by an elected person outside the control of the president, and this board reports to the bylaws, I'm wondering how you are now going to take somebody from outside this committee and appoint them on your own to hear a case that this committee in the bylaws has jurisdiction to hear.
All right, so I appreciate that, and I respect as president your decision.
And when I spoke to
We're gonna do
the
it.
chair of this committee this morning, he said that's fine with him, do it. Okay?
I
So,
respect the position of the president, and we move forward.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will remove item number 7 from the agenda, and we will continue with the 3 cases we have in the order I have, which is 34 East 24th Avenue, 511 South Avenue, and finally 320 Hampton. So, but yeah, I'm going to consider continuing the agenda also as it is. We've got 2 other Lupc members getting ready, so. So I have a second on the agenda. I'm going to ask if you guys just want to check people outside because it's a loud room. I'm sorry, appreciate it. Thanks. So I'm going to ask if there's a second on the agenda as submitted, which is only removing the word. Okay, chair updates. So I'll just do my quick chair updates. 11 days from today, we have our election. I hope every single person in this room is able to vote and does go and vote. I appreciate those of you who voted for me for the last 2 terms. I'm not running again. Having a baby and moving on. So excited about that next chapter. Thank you. But I think it's important that everybody feels that this is their VNC. And the way you do that is to vote on May 18th at the Westminster School off of McKinney. You can vote for a Lupc chair, you can vote for a president, a vice president, 1 community officer, you have a total of about 8 or 9 votes. So please do go vote. I will be there that day to vote. Make it your VNC. I went through a whole bunch of cases. I'm trying to get all my cases that have come in fully assigned before my term is done. Just to be clear on the process, I'm the only elected, city elected member of the board. So once the new board is set, I'm done. This committee stays until that new board selects their next Lupc. So this committee, the 8 other than me, if you will, were selected by the current sitting VNC. And that current VNC will select the new one. So they all stay on, even though I have to walk off into the sunset a little bit, until that new one is set. So my job is to try to get all the cases assigned and scheduled before then, and we'll get it done. One case that came up that was interesting, I've never seen this before. There's a billboard coming down in Venice. Awesome.
There's a reason why.
Yeah, well, I saw a case for removal of a billboard. I couldn't understand it, so I called the applicant, and they're actually removing a billboard on Main Street, 812 Main. It might happen to be in the
It's gonna be a great street.
My next door neighbor.
So no more. One billboard's coming down. That's all I've got. Any land use updates, Steve?
None pertaining to Venice. Santa Monica recently had a preliminary conceptual review of a new mixed-use project, 4th and 5th in Arizona. It's an interesting project in that it's designed by a pool house. Stay tuned for details if you're interested in
Thank you, Steve. Okay.
The project at 600 Milton is being officially, as I understand it, taken off of the calendar as of today. The applicant paid the fees to have the mailing sent out. So that was for the official hearing was supposed to be on the 22nd. It is now been canceled, and there is no tentative due date yet, although it will go through the application process prior to going through the city process.
That's Kim's Mark.
Kim's Mark.
No. Okay, thank you. All right, is there any public comment on items that are not on our agenda? Is there anyone who wants to say 1, 2? 1, 2. I only have 2 public comments, is that correct? All right, so here are Richard.
I have a question to the committee. This is concerning the new process for the posting commission. It's no longer granting waivers.
Yeah? Oh, yeah, okay.
And so I'm calling this available right now. The dwelling of my property. It's been 106 Avenue. And I'm kind of being jerked around a little bit. Nobody telling me exactly where to go to next. The coast commission says, don't come to us. It's not a city's problem. I go to the city and ask for planning department some guidance. Well, we're not sure what's going to happen. So I feel that I'm kind of left out in the cold, and wonder if you could give me some guidance. What to do next? Is this going to come before your committee? Have you taken a position? I talked to the council member's office. They are also a little bit uncertain. They said, directed me, go to the committee hearing and I'll stand with it. So that's what the so anything you can share with me, we appreciate.
I'm just aware of you being in the same boat as many other people, including a house that's 2 doors from mine now that's got squatters in it. They're trying to get a permit to tear it down. It was caught on fire yesterday. The fire department was over. And it's a house that we need to tear down in coastal. I think they hear it now in July. It was a sign off by city planning. So, other than to tell you, many people are in this quandary. I don't have an answer until coastal. You're saying that coastal has to.
Coastal, I used the coastal commission that said, well, sorry, we're not accepting any waivers.
Correct.
So go and ask the city to issue a city coastal permit, which is.
Are you on the coastal agenda yet?
No,
No.
no, I don't know where to go next. So now what we know, what they tell me, go to the city, I guess go to the public, go to the planning counter and apply for a city coastal permit.
Okay.
That's what they tell me.
Have you done that?
No, not yet, because I asked the city and they say, hold on, this is in flux. They are
It's in flux. It's a new thing, right? I think it just happened in January, February.
It was February, March.
March was
March,
the, yeah, cases that were filed in January were going to be heard by coastal in March, and they took them all. So it's,
I asked the planning counter, do you have anything, any memorandum, anything that guys need to say no. I asked the council member's office, they're waiting for
yeah,
follow-up.
Sorry.
So it's kind of a black hole right
it
now.
is.
And so if there's anybody here in this room, or you can give me some guidance, say, sit light or go to the.
Let me offer this. We need to hear this on our first June.
What's your address?
1106 Avenue.
Well, we need to hear this on our first meeting in June.
You're on the other side of Lincoln. 1100, 6th Avenue?
That's the
Oh, no.
Westminster.
Yeah,
US more south.
6th
yeah.
Avenue.
So we need to hear this in June to make some sort of a recommendation.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that I would say is before you take out your checkbook, because John is aware of it, it's a very expensive process to do what you're, I mean, it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars
Yes.
to do what they're
And
suggesting.
it's probably 12 months at least.
That's right. And so the thing to do would probably wait until after the June meeting at the coastal commission.
Go to the.
I mean, learn all you can learn, and attend all the meetings.
Go to the June meeting, because the first board that got pulled will be heard at that June meeting.
And, you know, if you want, you can stay in touch with, you know, us on this committee, just email Lupc at VeniceNC.org. And if anything comes up or there's going to be any problems, we would be happy to share.
We're doing a two-story house with 5-car parking.
Yeah, because
That's all you're doing.
the existing parking will be torn down.
Yeah.
I was told you have to provide 5, because that's what the house, my son lives in one house, he's building the second house for my other son, who has a family, lives with us, he wants his place. And he cannot afford to buy anything, so I applied for Venice approval, Venice
Yeah,
planning
so the
approval.
duplex, you're going to duplex.
No, it's not, I mean, it's just.
Yeah, the way it's written is that you've got a two-story single-family dwelling with another two-story single-family dwelling.
Well, there's only one, I'm applying for the second,
There's already one existing.
there's one existing.
You're just putting a backside on a
That's
single-family
correct.
dwelling to the existing lot. Okay. Yeah, you gotta sign off.
I have the sign off, but doesn't do any good.
Yeah, well, the one that's frustrating for me is 720 Indiana. It's 2 houses over from me. They're building a single family with 3-car parking. And this house was rotted and the squatters have caught on fire. Go look at it, 720 Indiana. And they can't even get the demo permit. So people are just living in there and cooking and.
There weren't the problem with the city giving out way too many bad waivers, this
Yeah.
would be a problem, just saying.
Yeah, but there
way too
is
many
an argument on why it's happening. Let's put it that. That's a great point to bring up. There are people who made that point. You're absolutely right. It's a great point to bring up. I appreciate you saying that. There have been a lot of waivers the city did, upset a lot of people, which caused them to stop doing the sign-ups. But if you're in a situation.
Talk to your huge developers that are getting, you know, greasing the palms and saying, that's the problem, and I'm sorry for stuff.
But right.
And I trust that your case as well. Which is your address?
And have to put a stop to all waivers.
201. 201 Linden? 202 Linden. And you're married, yes? Same issue.
Yeah, actually, I wrote some notes a little bit ago.
Yeah, please, go
I need somebody to yell at.
Go for it.
And I know you guys are not the most commission.
I'll hear you.
Okay, but I figure if I
Could you
can
stand so we can hear you?
stand.
Oh, we can't hear you. Thank you.
Sorry, I literally wrote this.
What's your name?
Barry.
Barry Cassidy.
Okay. I'm here to complain about the Coastal Commission. I'm here to complain about their abrupt, arbitrary, and procedureless decision to stop processing the minimis waivers in Venice. As a result of the Coastal Commission decision, I cannot move forward with building my own home. I am incurring tens of thousands of dollars in unexpected costs, and my family's future plans have been thrown in the disarray. I am typical of the people hurt by the Coastal Commission decision. Families working on their own homes being built for new families who plan to live in them, homes being designed and built by architects and designers who live and work in Venice. Overwhelmingly, these are the sorts of projects these are the sorts of adventurous architectural homes that Venice is famous for throughout the world. The type of residential architecture that has helped define Venice, and architecture that has grown directly from the local culture led by local talent. I stress that none of the affected projects are large. They are not hotels or new commercial developments or large projects of any kind. They are homes. They are people's homes. Stakeholders in Venice in every sense of the word. In their decision to stop processing de minimis waivers, the Coastal Commission broke over 30 years of procedure they had helped define in a slowly evolving process. They did so abruptly, without any genuine consultation with the community. They did so without advance notice. They did so without leaving a rational process in place for allowing for transition. As a result, they let families like mine hang out to dry. What they did is plain wrong. It was capricious, heavy-handed, and was directly and profoundly injurious to the community that they are in part empowered to protect. I'm asking for any help you can give in resolving this situation.
Please, both of you guys go to, because right now the position that was brought up that we hadn't heard, which I appreciate you making that comment, because there is another side. hang on.
No, nothing's been said by anybody.
Okay, just 1 second. Please go to the Coastal Commission hearing in June and read that same letter. They need to hear both sides of it.
Can I make a comment? That's
Sure.
I can explain this.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make my name, General Thomas, last name Brown. I will help. The Venice beachhead has a lot of this information. I'm going to give you a copy and you a copy. Over the last 2 years, the City of LA misleadingly approved 82 construction projects in Venice under de minimis waivers. The construction allowed by these types of waivers is supposed to be less than 10% larger. Anyway, it was much more, people really abused the system.
That's not true.
The person, that's all that I know, but it seems like people were not.
I'm gonna step in here. I'm gonna step in here because I'm not gonna get into a back and forth town hall.
Yeah, I don't want
Just
to.
1 second, just really
I
quick.
don't know.
Real quick.
That's what my understanding was.
So I'm saying we don't want to have a town hall. We don't, this is a committee meeting, not a town hall. So let me just complete the statement with this. My personal opinion, I'm gonna state my opinion. I understand that whole position on commercial projects without any question. I understand it. I also understand the single family dwelling. You're trying to build your own house. So I think both positions have great validity to them. I think what's really important is for you guys on the single family dwellings in Oakwood, in this area. The Coastal Commission, I think, my opinion, went with a broad strokes, and a lot of people maybe got thrown out with the bathwater. The pendulum swung one way and it swung the other way.
I agree with you.
So it needs to be heard by the Coastal Commission who made this decision themselves. You got something quick?
Little explanation. They had to put a stop to it because it was so rampant. It's eating up our community. So they had to stop to figure out what was going on.
Okay, so I'm not this is not a town hall. I'm done.
Sorry.
This topic is over. We're done talking about it. I said what we're gonna say. Please go to Coastal and make your valid points, your valid points, your valid points. No, we're done. I'm done. I've got to move on with our agenda.
Most of our agenda's been
Okay,
taken off.
we're moving on. Okay, item number 1 is 34 24th Avenue. I hope that this helps. And this is not okay. 34 24th Avenue is a demo of an existing garage and construction of a new 2-story addition with second unit and a new garage. So John Reed is our staff. I'll let John explain the background. We've got our applicant here.
This particular project has already gone through the zoning administrator's office. After going through that office, they contacted the Coastal Commission. They requested to go back again for the second public hearing. So the applicant's architect is here. This involves an addition to an existing house on Walk Street. The house in front is not really being changed. The construction is in the rear of the property. They're proposing a 400 square foot second unit, and they're proposing to add 2 additional parking spaces. So there will be 4 parking spaces on site. So I'd like Lisa Little to make a brief presentation regarding the project, and
So we're seeking the VNC's support for the proposed project at 34 24th Avenue. 34th Avenue is a walk street, and the project is in very hot west of Pacific Avenue on the south side of Walk Street. The client is George Emerson. He has lived in the home for 15 years as he intends to continue to live in the home after the construction is complete. I'm the architect. I lived in Venice for 14 years. As John just said, the project consists of a demo of an existing 2-car garage with a roof deck above, and a new 2-story addition is proposed behind an existing 1909 craftsman house. The addition has the new 400 square foot unit above the garage, and in the garage is 4 parking spaces. The 4 parking spaces are provided through the use of 2-car lifts, so you get 4 parking spaces in the 2-car garage. The project is in the RD 1.5 zone. We received an adjustment to add a second unit. We were short 60 square feet for the 1,500 square feet we need for each unit on RD 1.5. That was approved by the planning department. And we also got had a hearing for a ZAA for the administrator's adjustment for a reduced passageway, given that the existing house has a 2'11" setback. outreach meeting 2 days ago. We did not have any opposition. At the neighborhood outreach meeting, we had just 2 people attend, and one was just interested in Carlos and one was in support of the project. We also did not have any written or in attendance opposition at the CAA hearing. Chris Robertson was at that hearing. In terms of the list, the Building and Safety, City of LA has approved the project in principle, and we require a maintenance covenant agreement that binds to the property so that the homeowners are required to maintain those lists in perpetuity, that we bind to the property even if they're to sell the property. And then I have
There's a couple of images.
yeah. So this is an image of the project from the alley. Here's existing Craftsman in front, and this is the 2-story addition at the back of the alley. And this is the project next door that is also the architect on a similar idea. I feel really strongly about maintaining the character of the Craftsman and of the Walk Street. So this project, they maintained the facade and they pushed the addition back so that not only is it still a Craftsman, but the scale and massing parts are pushed back to the lot so it doesn't overlap the lot.
So, they're building a 400 square foot house, second unit, and providing that they needed 4 parking spaces. So I commend the applicant in actually doing this rather than creating a rec room and then changing the right to a later date, which is all too common in Venice. Also, the fact that the early 1900s house is really not being touched. So from the Walk Street, there'll be no physical change whatsoever to the character of the street. All the construction is back on the alley. So at first I wanted to, I thought this case really, we wanted multiple public hearings, outreach meetings, neighborhood meetings, but at the request of the applicant's, architect, they wanted to go through the process. So I think we should, talk about the project, but I think this applicant and the architect has done a wonderful job presenting this project and designing a very, very sensitive 400 square foot second dwelling unit on Wall Street.
So I'll close that section. Is there any public comment on this case? Okay.
Beautiful work.
Can you just state your name so we can know?
Roxanne.
Roxanne. Okay. Any other public comment? Please.
Peggy Lee Kennedy. We should not be giving any variances. We should not allow any variances. Any variances that involve especially density. And I'll tell you mainly because there hasn't been any type of a study of how this has affected our community. The traffic and the parking have not been studied. And we need a cumulative study on these issues before we approve anything that is an increase in any density or allows any variances on parking.
Please.
I'm just,
Name and
my name is Deborah LeChevre, and I just I'm not as technically minded as that. I just am concerned that I know that a lot of people that have garages in Venice, it's too time-consuming or difficult for them to use, or inconvenient for them to use the garages many times. So many times, even just one-story garage doesn't get used because it's inconvenient. So I'm wondering if it's really viable. I mean, can you really consider it 4 parking spaces? I mean, technically it is, but how often are they really going to use it on a day-to-day basis? So I'm wondering about the parking situation.
is there any other comment? Please. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, please. Smart solution. Any public comment? Okay, public comments closed. Oh, Jed?
Yeah, sorry, Jed Calvert. I like what John said about the project. I looked at the images, and I I think it's a good idea and a good way to go in general. My only concern is probably a minor one, and hopefully John can speak to this, about proof of concept, about the success of parking lots in Venice today. We've had a lot of resistance to it so far, and I have some concern about not just the acceptance of it, but whether we have any kind of record of similar community that we can review to show us what might happen 10 years down the line with this kind of stuff. And again, saying that, I don't know how critical it is to this particular project, but I like it.
Let me answer a couple questions. An alternative solution would be to tear down a portion of the 1900s craftsman house and destroy the house. I don't think that's a viable solution in this case. I think that's actually what a lot of people in this community are trying to avoid, the destruction of older homes in Venice. So I don't think that makes sense. This is the equivalent of tandem parking. Tandem parking has been used throughout the city of Los Angeles for decades and decades and decades. The city of Santa Monica has approved residential lifts for parking, and they've approved that in the coastal zone on multiple occasions. So I think to say, well, Venice is different, really doesn't make sense. Parking is critical, and that's the reason why we need 2 parking spaces for 400 square feet. If you were in any other part of the city in Los Angeles, you probably need 1 parking space. You wouldn't need 1 parking space. Anything less than 1 bedroom is 1.5, you round down, it's 1 space. The studio is 1 space. So because they're in Venice, they need 2. Normally what will happen is and I live on a street where I get to walk everywhere. I'm in my car at most, a couple times a week. And I like the fact that I can walk almost anywhere I want to go. So I think the alternative of demolishing an existing 1900s house, to accommodate 2 parking spaces in tandem makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So I think that this solution is a creative solution. It works, and it is absolutely acceptable for building safety. There's nothing in the municipal code that precludes it. There's nothing in the coastal act that precludes it. And I think that we should support this project, the fact that they are saving, in 1900s homes.
All right, so I'm closing public comment. Steve, if you want to start, just go down the board.
Okay.
Any comments?
Well, first a question. I noticed on sheet 832, the north elevation, there's a note calling out that you're replacing the siding on the historic costume. Is that, why is that? Do you need to do that? Is there a dry rot?
It's just, it would be replaced with the exact same siding.
Like for like with the ship lot?
Yeah.
It wasn't thrown away, so I was concerned about that. So if that's the case, I think that's great, because I'm particularly interested in that costume and retaining its potential historic significance and its integrity. I think in general it's a very thoughtful and sensitive design. Normally I would have some privacy concerns, but it looks like either neighbor is pretty tall as well, so I don't feel that the roof deck is going to be moving over someone's backyard and compromise their privacy. I would love to see some photovoltaics up on that roof deck. I think there's perhaps a missed opportunity. I think the north elevation's a bit unusual. It's kind of blank, and I'm concerned about the transition between the existing house and that new portion. But other than that, I think and given the sight lines, I don't think you'll see too much of it. The rear elevation looks great, I think. In general, I'm supportive of the project.
I have a couple questions for John or the applicant, Lisa, wherever you are. I want to get a feel for how long it takes to use the lift. So say you're coming home from work and there's 2 cars coming up. How does it work? Can you describe it?
It takes less time than it would take for a car to pull out and the spot. It takes about 2 seconds for the maybe 4 seconds on that or
And my other question is on the zoning administrator adjustment. Is there a photo or can you describe the difference between what's required and what you'd like to have, and are there any cons or difficulties? Seems pretty narrow, that
what is it that needs to pass through there? It's already been through the,
Well, so basically what happens is there was an ordinance written decades and decades ago regarding passageways, and that passageways have never really been updated based on the requirements. So this project.
Can I ask if you guys are going to talk, please, in the back, to step outside? It's tough. It's a quiet room. Thanks.
So under the new rules, the rear unit has to be fully sprinklered. And the city of Los Angeles, in the 1940s, wanted to create for fire, have this sort of passageway. So one of the requirements is to add a second unit, you have this passageway. Well, in different types of projects, that passageway width changes. There's no building code requirement for it. Now there's no fire code requirement for it. So really, it was a zoning code issue that probably is going to be updated when the new zoning code gets rewritten in the next decade. So, rather than once again tear down, a portion of the existing house to provide access to the rear, they asked for a modification, which was granted.
the passageway between the
Between the street and the rear unit. Now, because this is on an alley, they have access from the alley, but the way the municipal code is written is the alley is not considered access to a unit. Only the street or walk street or waterfront is considered access. I don't know what they
Anybody from the public want to see what?
Yeah.
So this is
Address a comment made by this nice person here, who's talking at the meeting. I want to respond to what you said. You said that sometimes when it's more of a hassle to park in your own garage, people park on the street.
Very common in Venice.
I am speaking sort of explicitly.
Oh, sorry.
I've made that argument many times, especially for tandem parking in Oakland, where there's some street parking, but not enough. In this particular area, which is the beach block, just west of Pacific, where I've lived for 26 years, if you have a spot on your property, you will be using it. There is no question that you would park on the street because it's more convenient than parking in your garage, even if that was, 12 from the hook on the ceiling. You use your spaces. So that's not a concern here. And the only thing that troubles me is that there's a lot of resources, which is money and building this space being spent on parking, which is a really sad thing. When you go to a house, you see in front of a house, a single family house, you see the garage. It's disgusting. I don't know about the marketplace for it, but that's just how I feel. And so here we're wasting a lot of capital and resources on parking, and that's just sad. It's the way it is, and when we get public transportation, that'll change. But in the meantime, this is a good solution to us.
Thank you, that's a very good point.